Okay. On the 12th of August 1986, I was working in a textile plant in Montreal. I started my midnight shift around 12 o'clock. About an hour or two later, one of the security guards who listens to the radio all the time came to me and told me, he knew that I'm of Sri Lankan origin, told me that there were 2 boatloads of Sri Lankans were found off the coast of Newfoundland, and they were rescued by fishermen. This information he gave to me, and I told him to listen to the radio every hour and let me know what is happening to them. I was happy that 155 Tamils lives have been saved, and I couldn't contact. I was the president of the Ilam Tamil Association of Quebec at that time, an organization, a registered organization funded by the federal and provincial governments. So I couldn't contact any board members at the time because early hours. So I waited till my shift was over at 8 o'clock, and I contacted the other members of the board. And it was decided that one of us should go to St. John's and take an immigration officer also with us, immigration lawyer with us. We contacted few immigration lawyers, and finally Madam Joyce Yadid, an immigration lawyer, agreed to accompany us to St. John's, Newfoundland. We left Montreal in the afternoon, and we arrived at St. John's around 8 p.m. There were no direct flights, so we had to fly through Halifax. At the airport, we were met by 2 RCMP officers and a few reporters. And after a brief talking, and we gave short interviews to the reporters, we went to the Memorial University residence where the refugees were housed. RCMP was guarding them to prevent any reporters or anybody else going into the residence. And when we requested, I asked them whether I could stay with the refugees, and they said okay, and I stayed with the refugees. I saw 155 Tamils, 5 children, 4 women, the rest are all males. They were frightened, and they were tired looking, and initially they didn't trust us, or they didn't they didn't want to cooperate with us. So we told them that we are come here to help them to protect their rights and to take them to Montreal. Then they started telling me the story, how they were herded into a 450-ton coastal freighter by the name Orige. They were herded into the holds where goods are stored, and they were told not to come to the deck, and there was space only for people to lie down only. Either they can sit or lie down. There were no space to walk or do anything else. They were fed initially bread and jam, and a few days later the bread became rancid, or there were molds in the bread and they couldn't eat that, so they had to throw that in the sea. They had rice, so they had most of the days they had only boiled rice, and suddenly suddenly one day the captain said, "We have arrived in Canada, so I'm going to put you in 2 lifeboats, and it's only 10 miles to Montreal." And they were loaded into these 2 small lifeboats, and in one of the boats there was an uninstalled outboard motor. It was just kept on in the boat, and it was not mounted even. And there was a compass, a small compass, a small screwdriver, and a knife. There were 2 cans of water and 1 can of gasoline, and some rope to tie the 2 boats, together. So they couldn't install the outboard motor because there were no port. So they didn't have tools. So with much difficulty, they managed to install the outboard motor, because there were some fishermen who had some experience in handling outboard motors, and they were going. They were asked to go in one particular direction, and they were going and pulling. One boat had the outboard motor, and the other one was pulling was being pulled by this one, the first one. When after a day, they all the gasoline they had was over, and now they started drifting. They were in the sea for 2 nights and 3 days, and on the 11th evening, they were spotted by Atlantic Reaper, a fishing vessel from Newfoundland, 6 miles off the coast of St. Shots in the southeastern part of Newfoundland. Arrival of this boat, of 155 Tamil refugees, highlighted the plight of Tamils, the Tamil suffering in Sri Lanka to the world. Every time the press, wrote a story about the ship, they wrote about the plight of Tamils in Sri Lanka, how they have been oppressed, which helped them to understand the situation in Sri Lanka, and which made easier for Tamil refugees to come to Canada.